Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to take a trip down the rabbit hole. Okay. I think in this video we're going to talk about BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed laid off a bunch of staffers on Friday, and we're going to talk about how the bigger picture here is that I think far left media is on the decline. And the only reason I'm even touching this is that there is so much interconnection between sites like BuzzFeed and Vox and pop culture. Okay, so they're definitely there's a lot of overlap here, and a lot of the really harsh opinions that have been coming from these media sites toward fans of games and comics and movies have been coming from sites like BuzzFeed.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of these sites are on the decline, and we'll talk about some of the other sites that are declining, and they all seem to be really struggling now. And I think my personal opinion is I think a lot of them are losing to like YouTube.
Well, I think too, they keep spinning opinion pieces as news.
Yeah.
Like, they do that a lot. It's like almost everything they do is like, sometimes there's some news mixed in with tons of opinions. And it's just, most everything has a skew on it.
Yeah, everything is definitely, through that lens. And again, the only reason we're going there is because it does touch on pop culture. And we'll, if you follow the video, you can kind of see where the rabbit hole goes here. Now, I do want to have a bit of a disclaimer. I am not happy about anybody getting laid off.
No.
Okay. I may not agree with the content that some of these websites put out, but I would not want anyone to be without a job.
No.
Having gotten laid off myself in the not too distant past, it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, we wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Yeah,
I also want to put another disclaimer here because some brain trust is always going to say, well, that's just because you're all right. Again, I'm going to say it because there's always some idiot who doesn't listen.
Every video we have to have a disclaimer.
Before you say that we're, alt-right or Republican, we are not alt-right or Republican. We actually lean left. And everybody's like, why do you keep saying that? Because there's always some moron.
You Trump thumping, blah, blah, blah.
Who goes in the comments and is like, well, we don't have to listen to you because you clearly are alt-right. No. Okay, with that being said, let's move on.
Okay, so this is coming from CNN Business. CNN, who I think is actually delighted that BuzzFeed is doing so poorly. You can almost hear the glee in their voice.
Wow.
BuzzFeed lays off dozens of journalists in its news division as the media outlet restructures. Just FYI, there is a slap fight between CNN and BuzzFeed. They're talking about the restructure. So this is coming from, this happened Friday. BuzzFeed laid off dozens of employees on Friday inside its prize news division as the media organization restructures to grapple with the tumultuous digital news landscape. I think, this being CNN, they need to put an LOL after that sentence. It's a slaughter, one employee who was not authorized to speak publicly told CNN.
Why does he care? He got laid off.
The entire national desk, which produced some of BuzzFeed News' most illustrious feature reporting, was cut. This is so funny. Like, BuzzFeed started with listicles and GIFs and
now
garbage.
They're illustrious.
And now they're an illustrious news desk.
I still always think of them as a joke, but anyway.
They are a joke. The health desk was also slashed, and the national security desk was disbanded. The website's LGBT desk, there's no Q, LGBT desk, an area of coverage in which BuzzFeed News had invested significant resources, was left with only one staffer.
Well, they still left them a staffer. Other places were disbanded completely.
I know. The entertainment team also suffered some cuts. Internationally, BuzzFeed's news offices in Spain were closed.
They have news offices in their countries now, too? It's
yeah.
BuzzFeed.
43 people were let go on Friday. So, Ben Smith, editor-in-chief of BuzzFeed News, said in an email to staff that it was a hard day and that the organization was losing a lot of excellent colleagues.
Wow, 43, that's a lot.
So, what is going on here? So, 7 years, some of these people were here. Now, BuzzFeed kind of came out of left field. It just, BuzzFeed News started in 2012. So, it hasn't really been around that long. So,
no, I say it's not very old.
No.
But they have 1,450 people?
Yeah. So there are more cuts coming. It's
not 220 are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah. And it's not just BuzzFeed. Huffington Post is going to be cutting too.
You have that because that one person.
Yeah, no, this guy is a staffer. Brian Magers is a staffer for Huffington Post. He said their opinion section is no more.
But some of the comments, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Well, first of all, some of the stuff he writes or Gillette's masculinity ad is quite quite
conservative. I mean, so this is no more. HuffPost will no longer have that.
So go to the comments.
Oh, let's go to the comments.
I'm not trying to, we're not laughing at this person losing his job.
No, we're not.
But some of the comments, I was like, oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah, on the bright side, you got to keep your blue check mark.
Well, that is true.
Bye, bye, bye.
Yeah, someone said I thought it went out in business in 2016. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, so some people telling him to go work for Canadian Broadcasting.
Isn't the entire publication and opinion section? Pretty much.
That is one of
That's
the
what I'm talking about.
truest. Yeah, it's they intermingle personal opinion. They're not really... I don't really consider these sites to be news outlets because they intermingle blog opinion pieces, and op-ed with reporting, and clearly the reporting is tainted by personal political views and vendettas. This one was funny. It was like, sorry you lost your job. I guess when they started publishing opinion as news, they decided they didn't need an opinion department.
Well, I mean,
that
that's what
is
we're
true.
seeing. That's what we're seeing often, and especially in this extreme, right or left, journalism is its opinions are spun as facts, and that isn't always the case.
Yeah. Doesn't this mean that HuffPo now ceases to exist? Layoffs underway at Huffington Post a day after parent company Verizon announces cuts. Now, Verizon also owns Tumblr. So just to kind of put that in perspective, Verizon and Yahoo own Tumblr, and there's some stuff going on there too. I personally think Tumblr will be gone pretty much completely within the next 3 to 5 years.
I'm just reading this. Someone plays a Huffington Post today. HuffPost learned Thursday morning that their days in the newsroom are numbered. A spokesperson from HuffPost said the site is investing its talents and resources to areas that have high audience engagement.
Okay, that's very telling. So these articles that they're putting out there, are not getting a lot of engagement.
Right. So, poised for growth at a time when our mission means more than ever, we are deeply committed to quality journalism that reflects what matters most to our diverse audiences across the globe. Basically,
the site's not getting a lot of traffic. It's not getting as much traffic as it needs to get, and they're cutting the fat.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say economic headwinds are hitting newsrooms across the industry. They've been affecting...
I mean, newspapers have been going out of business for, a decade now.
Yeah, and more people are getting tired. They're getting tired of one side of the argument. They're getting tired of the fact that, the majority of, mainstream media websites, news websites, lean not just left, but very, very far left, and they're constantly pushing political opinions, so they're going elsewhere. They're going elsewhere for their news, and I think social media is definitely chipping away at these kinds of sites, and YouTube especially is chipping away.
Yeah, but I'm talking about even print papers.
Oh yeah, they've been dead for years.
I mean, it's been going on. I mean, this kind of stuff killed off the newsprint papers, and now these guys are starting to get killed off. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so, and again, Verizon, they own Tumblr. They did a purge of not safe for work artwork. So I think Verizon is trying to come out of this as a leaner, meaner company. But yeah, Huffington Post, basically it's
mean.
it's dead weight. Oh God.
That's what they're going to say. They're so mean.
They're so mean.
Fox.
And Vox last year, Vox laid off staffers last year. I don't think Vox is out of the woods either. I think Vox is having a hard time keeping up. I think they're having a hard time keeping up with, trends, and they're sort of the punchy. I mean, look, these sites are kind of a joke now. I mean, because, people are talking about how they basically pass opinions off as
articles, as
news. I mean, we can see, talking about where this kind of crosses over with pop culture news. People are like, why are you covering this sort of thing? This isn't pop culture. Yeah, it actually does connect with pop culture, because BuzzFeed did a hit piece on the situation in
They've been doing
comics
pieces on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, just last year. I guess it was last year at this time, or I guess it was a little later last year. It was in March. But they did a hit piece on the situation in comics.
They've done several, haven't they?
Yeah.
Just in general.
Just in general. Depends on who the reporters are. Like I said, you have a lot of the reporters that jump from publication to publication. They might write for, BuzzFeed, then they go over to Vox, then they go over to,
HuffPo,
Polygon, they go over to, they make the rounds. And again, it's all of these sites pushing far left personal opinions as news are starting to decline. So they got into comics, they got into the Gamergate situation, you know, and again, this is BuzzFeed. Now we see how, you know, dabbling in this helped Gawker. So Gawker, which was the big fish, not too long ago. Gawker owned many websites. Gawker was a huge news organization, and they basically got sued into oblivion. And part of that was, you know, it was over the Hulk Hogan sex tape, you know, fiasco.
I was like, what?
Yeah, you don't want details.
I don't want to see that.
You don't want the details, but that was kind of the tipping point for it. There were a lot of other things that led up to that. So Gawker, so this is where this all goes. Okay, so Gawker disbanded a few years ago. This was in 2016, and they sold a lot of their sites off. They sold their sites, well, Gizmodo was one of their sites, so they sold some of their sites to Univision, and that includes IO9, which is, again, a pop culture news site. It's part of Gizmodo. Okay, here we've got their hot take on Star Wars, and then we've got Kotaku, of course, one of the most infamous of the Gizmodo sites. It still exists. It's still out there with opinions. We've got the AV Club. They're part of this Gizmodo network. So Gawker did die, sold off a bunch of its pop culture sites, and now they want to unload them. Because Univision's not making any money off of these websites.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're not profitable?
They're not profitable.
Who'd have thunk it?
So everybody's trying to unload this shit is basically what's going on. Like, the opinions are not... These extreme far left opinions are no longer welcome, I guess, by a lot of people. And I think they maybe pushed it too far. This was just last month. Christmas Day. Oh, Christmas Day. Univision struggling to find buyer for Gizmodo sites. Of course, that includes IO9, Kotaku, Jezebel, a few others. The money-losing operator of sites like Jezebel, Deadspin, and The Onion is still struggling to find a buyer 6 months after it got put back on the block by Univision. So they're trying to sell it. They have to keep dropping the price. They said insiders say it could have a tough time getting the price at once, even though Gizmodo brings in between 70 and 80 million a year, but its operating costs are high.
How many sites is that to bring in 70 or 80 million a year?
There's like a dozen-ish.
Wait, that's all they bring in with that many sites?
Yeah, with all those staffers and all those,
wow, that's kind of garbage. Anyway.
Yeah, so current bidders include Brian Goldberg, Bustle, oh boy, he scooped up the once hot millennial focus site Mike for only $5 million. That's actually Mike had previously been valued by investors as high as $100 million. He got for $5 million because these sites aren't worth anything anymore.
No,
people don't want this anymore. So they were saying that the going rate for Gizmodo was between 100 and 120 million. But now they're looking at, they'll take 80 or 70 or whatever.
Wow.
So some of the potential buyers might be Ziff Davis, which is a big media group. They had like, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and I think they own IGN. Maybe they own IGN now, but they have a bunch of gaming sites. So they probably
would. Disturbing too is these big, large groups keep going out and buying up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, not even before this, but they like these media groups keep buying up all these channels, and then that's why you're seeing all these channels all coming in the same voice. They all have the same voice because they're all owned by the same place. So there's not as much variety out there.
There's not as much
Variety magazine.
Actual diversity.
Right. There's not as much diversity. There's not as much. It's more now about. It's not even about opinion because back then when there was more sites, there was more opinion out there. But now it's just like they're more opinion based, but only have opinions of certain, leaning certain ways.
Yeah, and it's not even these sites in particular are not even left. They're mostly far left. We're talking the 8%.
Right.
They did that study, and they said that only 8% of the country identifies as being far left or being like the activist types. Mm-hmm. These sites cater to that audience. So, of course, you're going to lose money when you cater to only 8% of the general public. You're not even doing a 50-50. You're like catering to a very...
I think most people, no matter which way you know, which side you're on, I think most people are pretty rational people in the middle, either middle to the left or middle to the right, or, right or left, but they're like, they're reasonable. I call it the reasonable the middle. I think that's like the majority of people. I mean, you have a small percentage that are far left, a small percentage that are so far right. It's just most people are kind of in the middle, and they're just like, I just want to hear actual news. Just want the facts.
Yeah, they just want the facts. And that's kind of what happened with, as I understand it, again, I was not around for Gamergate, but with the Gamergate situation, you had sites like Kotaku and Polygon that were interjecting personal politics into a lot of their articles. There was clear political bias in their articles because they're all part of the same media group.
Right,
and
that's
now
what I'm saying.
they're worthless.
Same voices. They're sharing writers.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just going to happen.
Well, yeah, because you have people that work for, several publications or several, divisions of the same thing.
Well, that's why you might see a writer who's on, AV Club is also on, Gizmodo is also on Kotaku, because they're right on the same. And then you see they jump to other places too, but that's why you see.
Yeah, Polygon and Vox, and then they're writing for BuzzFeed. Well, maybe not so much BuzzFeed now, but anyway, it's a really interesting trend to watch, and you see like these kinds of websites declining at an alarming rate, but then you see an uptick in people getting their news from like YouTube, because I think they want different opinions. They want different opinions.
Right. They want the variety they used to have.
Yeah.
When you used to have a lot of different places, and you have a lot of different opinions on something. I mean, I've been known to go from this site to that site to 2 or 3 different sites on a news piece to try to find out what the truth is. It's sad you have to do that because it used to be, okay, you want the news, you go to any, news source and you get like a pretty much, here's the facts, here's what's going on.
Right.
And you have to hop around to several sites to find what's going on, that, try to glean the truth out of all the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, and it's so weird because not too long ago, there was some controversy about, there was going to be a new gaming website. I think it was called Exclusively Games, and they said that they were going to be apolitical, that they weren't going to get into politics. They're just going to cover the gaming news.
Yeah.
And that was controversial. There were gaming journalists who were like, how dare you not have any political opinions? You must be alt-right.
Well, you're seeing that
in
shows and everything too. They're like, if you try to be apolitical, you're like, I just want my entertainment to not be politically driven. Well, you're clearly an alt-right Nazi because you don't want to deal with politics. And it's like, some people just don't want to deal with it every second of their lives, and they just want entertainment without having to have stuff shoved down their throats. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah, speaking of that, speaking of people not wanting politics in their their pop culture news, I came across this article a couple of weeks ago, and I was actually going to do a video on it. I didn't get a chance to do it. New normative progressive gaming.
When they call it progressive gaming, that's all you need to know.
Which is probably the furthest left I've ever seen a gaming website go. It's very small. It actually doesn't have a very high Alexa rank.
Imagine that.
I don't think it gets.
I have no idea why.
Yeah, I don't think it gets very much traffic. But they talk about how this is their complete list, their right-wing gamer boycott list. Of course, they've got a Nazi.
Of course, because if you don't go lean far left, even if you're left, you're not left enough. You're a Nazi.
But they talk about the boycott list because people are always saying get woke, go broke, and they're talking about how if you go too far left, you're going to lose your audience. And this was a tongue in cheek, like these are all the games that deserve to be boycotted according to the alt-right. Any gaming website that doesn't spend 77% of its time talking about how it won't talk about politics should be boycotted if you're alt-right.
Is this a joke or is this serious?
The site's actually
this is serious. That's sad. I would have automatically assumed this was a joke.
I did a video once they talked about Fortnite and how Fortnite promoted toxic masculinity. And I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like the Onion of video game journalism, but it's actually a real website.
All those dances, first time thing I see when I see that stuff is toxic masculinity.
I know, right? So, but this, so they're on here. They're like, these are things you must boycott if you're alt-right. Any gaming website that doesn't spend 77%.
Is there like
oddly
a
specific
formula for this? Like it has to be 77%. Is it like some weird formula we're unaware of?
So if you talk about how you won't talk about politics, because a lot of the newer sites popping up like Exclusively Games, and you see some of the comic sites like Bleeding Full and Bounding in the Comics saying, hey, we don't want to get really political. We'll talk about people who are too political, but we ourselves are not going to get into politics too much.
That's what we do pretty much.
Yeah.
We just kind of we try not to be political. We just like saying, hey, look. This is weird.
But any gaming site that doesn't cover its own lack of political discussion in your favorite hobby is one to avoid. If they just don't talk about politics much, steer clear.
Why? Why would you steer clear of that? That'd be like, here, you got my hits.
The only way to be sure that SJWs aren't ruining your favorite hobby with their identity politics is to be constantly reminded of the existence of SJWs who want to ruin your favorite hobby with identity politics.
No joke.
No, he's writing this as if he were writing a list for the alt-right to boycott. So they're basically saying that.
Okay, so here's a joke. It's a slapping joke against outright. I'm trying to understand
it
what's
is.
going on.
It's not a very funny joke. It's not a
like,
very
what?
funny.
I don't get this. Okay.
It's not a very funny website. But it is. It's also just absolutely hilarious to go through the site and see some of the criticisms they have of the gaming industry. But basically saying if the website talks about how they're apolitical, then they must be on the alt-right. Because if you're apolitical, you're alt-right too.
Yeah, and well, I mean, if you're not, as long as you're not like out there being far left, you're all right. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But like sites like the Mary Sue, again,
Mary Sue, yeah,
the Mary Sue, which they're
integrity.
Oh God, yeah. So they're not pushing as hard as they used to. They were trying to get people to, subscribe to the Mary Sue because I guess the advertisers weren't jumping into the boat like they used to. But we can kind of see if you go to Alexa, which is a pretty objective, ranking. You can see they're kind of.
Now you're probably looking at this. The lower the number, the better you are in Alexa, and it looks like, well, that's not very much of a drop, 18 to 24. But the lower numbers you go, when you get down these lower numbers, it takes a lot to move up. At all. It's really hard. It's a lot harder to move up when you're down the lower numbers than you are in the big numbers. I mean, just like a 10 extra pages can drop you thousands to the good. Where you get to this, you need a lot of difference in traffic to drop you good or bad.
But you can see a clear drop of last year, downward trend, the Mary Sue. And same with sites like Bleeding Cool, which, used to be a pretty big comic site.
Yeah, so I mean, and like I said again, dropping. Well, 12 to 15 isn't that much. It is when you're in the low numbers. It takes a lot to move you either way.
Yeah, so I just think people are just getting tired of the very biased news outlets, and it's I think you're going to see a shakeup in obviously a lot of these companies are struggling right now. I think the sites will just disappear completely because some of these they'll just get shut down because it's not even profitable to operate them. But
they'll start with cuts to the staff first, and then they'll go from that.
But we're going to see this in pop culture news. We're going to see it in pop culture news. We're going to see the major pop culture websites. We're going to see a shakeout, I think.
We're already seeing that because a lot of the ones that are under, are losing people right now. Yeah. It's those groups right now.
Well, it said the entertainment desk was gutted at BuzzFeed.
Right.
Good. They won't be doing more hit pieces. But yeah, it's just and I think what's going on is more and more people are getting their news from individuals. Right,
because people just want the real news. They don't want. I mean, that's still individual to be biased, but you know what I'm saying. It's like a lot of these sites when they have clear biases, you're only gonna have a certain audience that goes there, and I think you're better off just to report on what's true than it is to be your opinion on it. Because people just want to know what's going on so they can form their own opinion. They don't need you to tell them what your opinion is. Your job is to give them the news, give them the facts, and their job is to form their own opinion. Right.
And if people want opinions, they go look for them. That's what blogs were for. That's what YouTube channels are for. People look for opinion. I mean, we're giving you our opinion. We're not giving you news necessarily. We're talking about these things, interjecting.
My opinion is that news sites should be more about facts than the news and less about opinions on my opinionated site. So, but it is. I do think it should be more about...
we're not the news. We're not the news.
I think, and when we do articles, we try very hard to make them as fair as we can.
Yeah, and I think that there's definitely a rude awakening coming for, I think, a lot of these media outlets that have basically used their platform to attack people they didn't like. I think they're going to find themselves, running out of advertisers,
Well, yeah, that's something else. Yeah, advertisers are important. And if you're just really slamming on people, and these businesses rely on people from, not all businesses are like Marvel. Some businesses actually,
want to make money.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but some places just want to make money. And they know they have customers on the left and the right, and they want to stay out of it because they want to keep their customers, and people are there for a burger, not for, politics, or they're there to buy tires, not for politics, or whatever. And I think that advertisers are going to start pulling if they're, because some of these things that are said, if they're the advertiser and their ads right on the site, like sponsored by whatever, it could definitely, they could definitely take a hit.
All of BuzzFeed sponsored by Gillette.
I was going to say Gillette. They could take a hit though, because people could just, oh, well, they're a sponsor. And even though they had nothing to do with the content, they're just sponsoring the site. They might be sponsoring a bunch of sites through an ad package. They might not even have anything to do with it.
Right.
People are going to blame them because that's the name they know.
Well, that's kind of what happened with Gawker. I guess the first kind of volley against Gawker before the lawsuit that did him in was, as I understand it, advertisers started pulling because they were getting complaints from conservative folks that the site had gone too far, that they were attacking gamers, and it was a mess. So we're gonna see a shakeup. And the thing is you look at these sites again. You look at Mary Sue, and you look at Bleeding Cool. If you actually go out and check their YouTube numbers, they don't do good on YouTube. Like they don't. I think Bleeding Cool has like 2,000 people on YouTube, and if you go out to the Mary Sue, I am pretty sure it's like 2,000. The Mary Sue, big, massive, supposedly big, massive pop culture website, has got a lot of opinions, only has 2,000 subs on YouTube. And it's the same kind of with Bleeding Cool. 2,000. People they're not connecting with people. They're not connecting with people. The sites just don't connect with people.
Yeah, so and I think they stick to the news. I mean, but these sites are meant to be more to one way or the other. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, even on YouTube, where I think it matters more now, we're seeing that these pop culture sites can't make that transition. Mm-hmm. Like, they were good, I guess, back in the day at spinning things on a blog, but when it comes to actually connecting with real people on YouTube, which is still the Wild West, they can't do it. They can't do it. They're losing to YouTubers.
Yeah, well, that's true.
They are. So, nah.
That's when they do stories about why
that's when they do hit pieces about YouTubers.
Yeah.
No, I swear to God, I think Bleeding Cool's biggest issue with the Comicsgate situation was they were pissed that more people were getting comic book news from YouTube than they were from their website. I think that was a huge part of it.
Well,
so,
I never took Bleeding Cool seriously anyway, because everybody knew they were like the Inquirer.
They were.
Comic news sites. And so, I love it now how everybody complained about Bleeding Cool for years about how it was a joke until they start siding with them. And then it's like, well, Bleeding Cool says the bastion of journalistic integrity.
They are the BuzzFeed. They're the BuzzFeed of comics. They started out as a garbage site, and then as soon as they start spouting opinions you agree with, then all of a sudden they should be up for the Pulitzer.
Yeah, right.
But we're gonna see more. We're gonna wrap this one up. We're gonna see more and more of this, I think, in the coming year or two, just as people get tired of having all of their news, having all of even just entertainment news coming from one side.
Yeah, we're mostly talking about entertainment.
Yeah, I think people are tired of it. They're tired of it.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
And I think they're gonna start making connections with people who have differing voices, and we'll watch this because I do think it's gonna affect IO9, Kotaku, and eventually sites like the Mary Sue and all of that, where I think we're going to see them kind of drop off in the next couple of years. That's just my opinion, but I think we will. I think we will.
I mean, and when you're antagonizing the readers, like on the Mary Sue, that was the one about Captain Marvel, and that she flat out just was going out there telling men that they were this, that, and everything else because she liked Captain Marvel, and I mean, you're just insulted. There's a bunch of people who might have agreed with you, and you just insulted them before you even found out they'd agree with you or not. You know what I mean?
They're more interested in, I guess, the virtue signaling than they are in actually getting traffic and making money with ad revenue, because a lot of times they start right out of the gate, just insulting people. It's not good for business. Depends on what you want to do. If you want to just have your own personal little blog and you can give opinions, that's fantastic.
I remember everybody just wanted to have fun and enjoy things, and you might be a little swayed this way or that way, but mostly it was like we're all, yay, we're getting this, yay, we're getting that, yay, let's go watch this and that, and yay, and then it just became, this. Although
I do agree with this article, how are fandoms doing after Tumblr's adult content ban? The traffic's down.
Oh, imagine that.
The traffic's down.
Well, I don't disagree with everything the Mary Sue says.
No, but it clearly is coming from a political place, and I think people are just kind of like, yeah, we're done. We're done. We're tired of it. We're tired of it. Doesn't make you all right. It just means you're done. You're tired.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, we are going to wrap this video up. We are done. We're tired of talking about it.
Yeah, I was just like, why are we doing this? Okay.
Well, I'm trying to make a point that I think these sites are gonna dwindle in number in the very, very near future, as more people go to like YouTube and alternative news sources. So that is my opinion.
All right.
And we're not a news site; we're an opinion channel.
Right. So don't listen to their opinions.
So
This
don't
is
listen
ours.
to anything. Don't listen to anything we say. We're not really the news. Okay. Please subscribe to Clownfish TV for more pop culture news, views, rants, gaming videos, art videos, and more. This has been Neon and Geeky.
Bye.
Goodbye. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.